guys. Welcome to another episode of the Chad Prather Show. Good Monday afternoon, St. Patrick's Day. Hope everybody's doing well. Welcome to the live chat, those of you in Rumble, on the Chad Prather page. Let me move this little screen out of the way a little bit. Keep it so you can still see the little Chad Prather Show logo on there. We got a fun show in store for you. I never know when to start talking on the thing because there's always a delay. Like this morning, I was watching the Dear America show, and I'm sitting here looking goofy for 5 seconds before I start talking. But here we are, folks. This is the beauty of independent podcasting. It's what we do. Please support us very simply by clicking like down below, and please comment in the chat, okay? I want you guys to get engaged. Don't know if anybody has any wild and crazy St. Patrick's Day plans. If I could twist Party Foul Steve's arm, I might get him to go smoke a cigar with me here in a little while. It's sort of the thing that we do, but we'll see. I've got to go to the TSA office today because I got to re-up with this unconstitutional organization known as the Transportation Safety Administration and get my TSA pre-check redone for travel. I don't think they should exist. Listen, and again, nothing against those of you who work for the TSA. I had a guy who was going through the airport the other day, and I was getting undressed for him. And I said, this is the biggest thrill I get of my life right now is getting felt up by the TSA. And he literally looked at me and said, well, you wouldn't know that by listening to your podcast. The TSA, man, they're watching. They're everywhere. They're members. They're members of the family in here. But got to do that this afternoon. I hope you guys are having a fantastic Monday. Looking forward to a fantastic week. I'll be in Springfield, Missouri this weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday night. The Right Side of Comedy. Jesse Payton and I will be there. The Gulf of America Comedy Tour. We are triggering the folks on the left. It is a good time. Man, I don't know if you guys are paying attention. I want to get into this here in a while and really dig into it because this was a topic that I was debating, even discussing, and it's this swatting thing where the SWAT teams are showing up at conservatives' homes in the middle of the night. I want to break this thing down for you and talk to you about how serious this is. And not just serious, it's prevalent. I mean, it's happening to a lot of conservatives out there. You'd be surprised and shocked at how many. I think we're starting to see a trend of this, but we're going to dig into it. And then, of course, I want to talk to you a little bit about a couple of things that Donald Trump is doing. We've talked about this morning, we talked about the Trinidad guys that were sent down to El Salvador. Might allude to that a little bit more because I've got an interesting take now that it's the afternoon and I've just watched Carolyn Levitt's press conference. I've got a couple of other thoughts on that I didn't mention this morning. But I want to talk to you about Donald Trump's current peace through strength. He's having a conversation tomorrow with President Vladimir Putin of Russia, at least a phone call, and we'll see where that goes. But I want to dig into that a little bit. Before we get any further into the show, let me remind you, let me make sure I got the right information here because the other day I went and signed up. I signed up with all this swatting stuff going on and all that. I stay pretty protected. I got a lot of firewalls, but I went and I signed up for Patriot Protect. I've encouraged all of you guys to do that. It's a no-brainer. Every single one of you should go to patriot-protect.com/Chad. Every single person should go to patriotprotect.com/Chad and put the little dash in there, patriot-protect.com/Chad. Use promo code Chad and they're already going to have a deal. There were some people the other day who were saying, well, their promo code doesn't work. There's certain deals that are already built in. You're already going to get the savings on some of the packages that you got, and the promo code won't apply. But I want you guys to really think about what your safety's worth. I mean, right now they're using AI. The cyber criminals have gotten so sophisticated in scouring the dark web, the parts that you don't even know your information is out there. You're literally being peddled out there. It's almost like identity trafficking. And the Patriot Protect, they got some really cool stuff going on right now where it just an absolute. They call it blackout. I mean, they just make sure that you cannot be found. No scammers, no phone calls, no phishing emails, none of those things. The weird text messages, you are going to vanish. I mean, it's like putting yourself in a Faraday cage. You are not going to be visible to the public, and you need to do that. You say, why would anybody want to find me? If you got a social security number, you got a bank account, you got an identity out there, and you've ever searched anything online, trust me, you want to make sure that you are protected. Patriot-protect.com/Chad. Use promo code CHAD. I spell it Chad. Okay. Let's break this thing down. Let's talk about it. All right. Blow up the chat. Let me see you guys in there. Slap something in there. Tell me you're there. Put an American flag. Comment. I don't care. Tell me you love me. Tell me I look good. I don't care what you do. I don't care what you just blow up the chat and click like there on Rumble. To those of you over under there watching under the Google overlords on YouTube, we still love you as well, but we do wish that you would come over to Rumble. Party Foul Steve, are you there, my friend? Party Foul Steve. Oh, there he is. Welcome to the show.
I'm here, and it only took 6.5 minutes for you to intro me.
Dude, you are the biggest narcissist I know.
It hurt my heart a little bit.
I mean,
no, I was going to say something about that Patriot Protect. They also, I don't know if you did the add-on to it. There's a little add-on that's one-time fee. They let you know everywhere that your info's been leaked, like whether it was through your email at one of those sites you can't go to anymore or something like that.
They will do that. And the Newsweek talked about this data breach. And see, part of the thing I think that's going on with this swatting, I think some of that is in connection with this cyber attack that happened last week with X. We know that they got attacked and they were down early last week. And I think that some of the swatting stuff is in connection with that. And I'm just saying, your information is out there. It's frightening. I don't know if we can ever truly can disappear ourselves from, public scrutiny. It's so funny to me, Party Foul. You saw it happen the other day. There was a guy like 7 years ago. This was I guess it was 2015. So I guess we're coming up on 10 years. There was a guy by my name in Gwinnett, Georgia, who beat up his girlfriend and then held SWAT at bay for like 7 hours in Gwinnett, Georgia, in an apartment complex. And people the trolls will still send the thing saying that that's me. It wasn't me. I was not in Georgia in 2015, I assure you. I was 100% entrenched in Texas and wasn't in Gwinnett, Georgia. It wasn't me. Same name. But again, people, they find these things. And it's scary how much stuff is out there, whether it's fake information or your information. We know that people are using AI. There's images of you that aren't real images. People are calling people with their phone on their phones when they're using an AI voice. It's frightening stuff.
I have a lot of pictures on the internet of me drinking beer and whiskey and smoking cigars, and it's all AI.
Yeah.
I don't do any of that stuff.
You didn't. You were not in that movie. You were not in that short film. You were. We'll call it a documentary if you want to. Yeah. It was a little research study that Party Foul Steve did back in the day when you got the name Party Foul. So I'm up last night. He's a Party Foul Steve. We had a good time yesterday. Your wife and I and you. We were all out yesterday throughout the day, and we had a good time yesterday. You guys came over to the house last night. We had some dinner, and then y'all left, and I went to bed and woke up about 1:30. Got to reading. I jumped over on X. And I noticed that my friend Larry Taunton was going through this very thing about the swatting. Now, Larry has been on the show before. Larry has a podcast. It's called Ideas Have Consequences. He is a prolific author. He travels all over the world. We'll talk about that because I think it's pretty funny in terms of what he just went through last night compared to where he's been in the last couple of weeks. But Larry is no stranger to you guys. Many of you follow Larry, the terrorist, Taunton over there on X right now. Provocative. He's a thinker. This guy, he's an apologist. He's a defender of the faith. He's a famous guy. Just ask him. And he's with us. I want to talk about what happened last night. Larry Taunton, everybody. How are you, my brother?
I'm doing very well. How about you, Chad?
Dude, it's good to see you. We got to quit meeting under these circumstances. Let's talk about, before we get into the swatting thing that happened with you last night, you fill me in on your last month. You give me a little globe-trotting of where Larry Taunton's been.
Well, it's so funny, Chad. You've been to my home. You know my wife, Lori, and I've been gone for 2 months. And she was with me for part of that time, about a month of that time. She doesn't go with me to any of the dangerous stuff. I went from Mexico City to Switzerland to Rome, back to Switzerland, from there to Cairo to Prague to Rome, and then Rome home. So that was for 2 months. And last night we're sitting at a sports grill, and she said to me, the work you do overseas is so dangerous. And I said, but Lori, I said, and I pointed around the restaurant and I said, but then I come here, and nobody here knows really what I do for a living. They don't really understand it. And I said, it's so boring here. And by the time I come home, I'm ready for boring. And just a few hours later, 5 heavily armed men are tiptoeing in body armor on my porch. But yeah, I went to the World Economic Forum. Prior to that, I was tracking some of these migrant caravans through South America, through Darien Gap, up to the United States border, and part of what I was doing in that, Chad, was looking into the corruption of USAID. You know, long before Elon Musk and Doge were talking about it, I'd been screaming, as you well know, that our own government was funding what was essentially a massive human trafficking op. And then I was, in some of the aforementioned countries. And while I was in Cairo for a completely different reason from USAID, but I knew that they had an office there, a compound, and I decided to go there. And that resulted in a long standoff with the Egyptian secret police who tried to disappear me.
You almost got Khashoggi'd.
They tried to Khashoggi me, absolutely did. And it was a 3-hour standoff with them outside of the USAID Cairo. This is the Egypt's equivalent to the KGB. They kept trying to get me to get out of the car and take my phone and my passport. I refused to get out of the car, refused to give them my passport, refused to give them my phone. And it just kept kind of escalating. And anyway, but I did manage to get out of that country, and they secret police showed up at my hotel the next day.
Wow.
Fortunately for me, I was gone. But again, Chad, the thing for me was I thought, I'm coming home. I'm going to chill on the lake. I'm going to have such a good time and relax. And last night, Ranger goes ape shit. And
so let's talk about Ranger for a second. First of all, for those of you who don't know, Ranger is the biggest German Shepherd I've ever seen in my life. And as a former Shepherd owner, Willie, those of you who know Willie, Willie's still alive and well, just with my ex-wife. Ranger is the biggest Shepherd, a beast of a dog, a mammoth dog. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, Ranger, it's funny. We got him from a police kennel, when he was a pup. I've always loved German Shepherds. I've owned them since I was a kid, and they're such an intelligent breed. They have strong sense of loyalty and a stable temperament. As you know, he's very friendly to you. But if someone were to approach you at my house with hostility, Ranger would deem you to be part of the pack, and he'd go to kill mode. And so Ranger is a very clever dog. He opens the door, closes the doors. He's very vigilant, and I've learned to pay close attention to his moods. And Chad, last night as I was going to bed, I was giving him this medication because he'd kind of been in depression while I was gone and chewed himself up a little bit. And so I have this medication for an infection, and you have to give it with food. So I was giving a little bit of food, but at 1 a.m. And normally he would just eat that up, but the fur on his shoulders was, up on end, and his ears were, as I say, like Batman, he's doing this kind of thing. And I've learned to pay very close attention to that because he's something's going on. But my thought at the moment was that I must have mice or something in the house that he was hearing. It didn't dawn on me that these guys were, going to be on my deck. And so I went to bed, and I'm just getting into bed, and I'm still noticing that Ranger is agitated, and he's, sniffing, and his nose, his ears are straight up, and his shoulders are bowed. And I see some light flash off of my doorway. And just so people will know, I live in a very remote area. There are no headlights of cars that you will see where I live. And the moment I see that, Ranger charges out of the room to go investigate. I get a weapon, and I'm coming out at low ready with my gun. And I see these guys that you have in this video here. I can see them through the he's testing the door. See that he's testing the door.
See, that's when I saw the clip last night, because you messaged me these things. I was like, I don't know that that's supposed to happen.
Well, thank God the door was locked, because this it's not Ring, it's Arlo, but this Ring doorbell, these cameras, it looks like it's well lit, but that's infrared.
So, and let me break in on this for those of you. I have been to this. I've been to Larry's house. I love your home. I brag on your home. It's one of the most peaceful places in the world because you are tucked so far back up into the middle of nowhere. I mean, it literally, you have to drive through this 3 miles of bombed out asphalt, which is a great security thing in and of itself because you have to want to get up in there. It's a gorgeous place. It's on a beautiful lake. It's just serene. It is peaceful. But let me tell you guys, it's dark down there. And before, I don't want to say anything negative about law enforcement. God bless these guys who to me are heroes. They're responding to an emergency call. I texted you when we were talking last night at 3 a.m. I said, I wouldn't want to come down to your house not knowing what I'm walking into. I mean, it's so dark. It's frightening. And you're in the woods.
Yeah, I'm in a gated community subdivision. A lot of the lake properties, are being purchased. But the nearest house to me, a gorgeous home, but it's probably 3 football fields away.
Yeah,
maybe more than that. And what these guys would later tell me is that they had received a call from someone claiming to be inside my home, hiding, while hooded men with automatic weapons were going throughout the home and shooting everyone. And supposedly blood everywhere. So what they told me they did was, they didn't drive down my driveway with the lights on or any sirens. He said, we came in blacked out. And so...
how many cars?
9.
Wow.
9
cars. With emergency services as well. And so 5 guys in body armor with AR-15s are coming down my driveway in total darkness and no warning whatsoever. And they're tiptoeing around on my deck. And so when I see Ranger getting amped up, I know there's a reason for me to get amped up. So I get my pistol and I'm at low ready, and I'm coming around the corner, and I'm not hiding the gun, but it's pitch black. So this looks like it's very well lit, but again, this is infrared. So this is very dark, and I can see the silhouettes of armed men tiptoeing around on my deck. So, I couldn't see these uniforms the way it appears that you could here.
Sure.
I could just see the silhouettes. So I turned on the light to the main room, which you'll see in one of these videos.
Yeah, let this one continue playing. There's the light.
So the light comes on, and then you'll hear this officer say, police. And
let's turn the volume up on this.
I'm still around the corner because I cannot see their uniforms. And I said,
Police Department!
See, here we go.
Police Department!
And you can hear Ranger. Yeah.
Police Department! Huh?
And you told them to identify themselves.
I said identify.
You received a phone call here. Yes, sir.
And one of them, what he does, I don't know if it's in this video or elsewhere, but he shines a light on himself. I don't know if he held a flashlight over his head or underneath, but he shined a light on himself so I could now see a uniform. And when, so they come around to the door. Fortunately, these guys, and I want to just echo what you just said, I like these guys. I promise you not one of them voted for Biden or Kamala.
Now, this is after the fact. Here they are. I mean, they're laughing. I mean, there's smiles on their faces.
They're all smiling. They had not been given my name, only an address. And the guy on the right here, the black man who was on the right, he was the officer who was saying police department. He's very sensible. And he said, I grew up right here in this neighborhood, right, near here. And again, this is what he would tell me later. And he said, typically if I get a call like this, I look at the neighborhood. And he said, there's never been anything out on the lake. He says, never been anything out there. And he said, I arrived and it's pitch dark. And I see you come out, I'm wearing a pair of, I'm wearing boxers and I'm barefooted. And he said, and I'm holding a weapon. And he said, I saw you holding it, but I thought there's nobody here being shot. I would have a weapon too. And this is the South. This is the way people react in the South. So he said, I wasn't alarmed. to see you holding a weapon. And he came to the door, and I would let him in. I wouldn't let any of the others in, but I was still had suspicions because of what had just happened to me in Cairo. So I don't know exactly what's going on here. And he comes in and he starts to explain, and it de-escalates from there. And they tell me about the phone call they received and everything that happened. But, Chad, this is the kind of thing where the person who made this call, at the very least, wanted to terrorize me and my wife, but they were okay with carnage. If I get shot and killed, my wife, my dog, I'd possibly shoot some of these guys. Mm-hmm. I'm telling you, the guy was testing the door. I'm back in a hallway holding a pistol. And if he comes in my house, I'm opening fire. If I see a man who I can't see a uniform, I just see a silhouette.
Yeah.
And he's coming in with an automatic rifle, I'm opening fire.
Well, you immediately think this is a home invasion.
Yeah, it's exactly what I thought.
So I sleep within, reaching distance of a firearm. I'm always within reaching distance of a firearm in my home. And because of all of this swatting, and by the way, those of you who've joined us late, this is Larry Taunton. You need to be following him on X at Larry Taunton. You need to tune into his show, Ideas Have Consequences. He's smarter than everybody else here. So I'll just throw that out there. People need to be following Larry. But in every one of these cases, Larry, with all of this swatting that is going on, first of all, I think that these calls are originating overseas. I think they're using AI to sound like an American voice. I think all of these are connected with people who have interacted in some way with Elon Musk. I think these are all people who in some ways have been connected or have spoken out against Ukraine.
Yep.
With all of these conservatives that this is happening to. Oh, and another thing, anybody that is in any way either pro-Israel or anti-Hamas.
Yeah.
I think all of those things, and you may not be pro-Israel, but you may still be anti-Hamas. Any anti-Hamas sentiment.
Well,
I think all of those things are working
together.
Hamas.
I'm both.
Yeah.
And you see what happened in Cairo is related to that. That's a second conversation we can have at some point. But yeah, I mean, you to your point, Chad, if you're coming to my house, it's because you mean to be at my house.
Right.
You don't just accidentally drive up at my place. It's at the end of a cul-de-sac. And so no one in the years that we've lived here has just randomly appeared on my deck.
And let me stop you right there, Larry. Let me just say right here, this guy, turn the volume up real quick, Mr.
Yeah, what he says.
Let's hear what he says. Listen to the officer. He checks the door.
Before this, he says it.
Yes, right before.
Right here.
It's really none of my business, but it don't look like there's been 3 or 4 guys in here that's shot everybody.
He said, I don't think this is really my business. He said, but it doesn't look like 4 or 5 guys have been here and shot everybody. Then he checks the door. So again, every situation that I've heard of, from Chase Geiser, my friend with InfoWars, he got swatted twice in the same day.
Oh, wow.
Various other people that have, every time Joe Pagliarulo, Joe Pags, he has said, in every case, the officers were sensible about this. They didn't come in guns blazing, which is good, because if you shoot back, you're not beating, 7 law enforcement officers with long guns.
No, absolutely not.
Somebody's getting taken out on the law enforcement side. You're going to die. This is going to be a bad thing. So at the end of the day, they're literally, whoever's calling this in is okay with carnage.
Absolutely. That's what was going on here. And I want to commend these guys because, listen, they were amped up. I was amped up. You could hear the quavering in his voice. I won't attribute that to fear. I'll attribute that to adrenaline.
Yeah.
I mean, you're thinking this is possibly a shootout scenario. And you can watch them here. They got their guns high.
Yeah.
And they're ready to open fire. Now, again, this being the South and not being New York, he would say to me later, when you came out holding a weapon, it didn't alarm me because I thought, this is the South. Everybody here has a weapon. And he said, I thought to myself, if guys were walking around on my deck, I would too. So
Yeah.
You know, he was very understanding about that. At no point he even asked me to put it down. And I think it's because by that time he had already decided this call is completely bogus. This is nonsense.
Yeah, Gunther Eagleman, Cat Turd, Tim Pool. The list goes on. This is becoming very prevalent now. I have been in close contact with my law enforcement, my sheriff, both local law enforcement as well as federal law enforcement here in my area to say, hey, I want to know, are you guys aware of what's going on? It's alarming how many of them don't know what's
Yeah.
happening. They'd never heard of this terminology. Because again, you hear about it and it's this far away thing that happens to other people. But now,
Exactly.
pretty much anyone that is a conservative influencer, typically more than 150,000 followers on X, there's certain trends. You can just put them together. They're not. It's a frightening deal, and they're hoping that something's going to happen. They still, as far as I know, Kash Patel has said that the FBI and the Department of Justice is going to go after this and investigate this. He came out last week and said that they recognize it. They're going to deal with this as they can in investigating it. But right now, as far as I know, this is every night. So trust me when I tell you, my cameras are on. I normally, Larry, you don't want to know this about me, but I sleep with shorts on right now. Okay. Because I don't know if I'm going to have an interaction with law enforcement at 2:00 in the morning. You know,
Well,
I
be better
you need
off
a
if you're
German
naked.
Shepherd, Chad.
yeah, I know. I got a 10-pound dachshund, whose ears go up and definitely not as intimidating as Ranger is. What were you saying, Party Foul?
I said you might be better off going to the door naked. If a
Yeah.
bunch of cops show up.
Just-
that way, unarmed.
Yeah. Well,
Completely.
if they saw me naked, they would definitely think I'm armed, baby. I will just tell you, this is my rifle, this is my gun. But this is alarming. It's frightening. I encourage everybody to pray about this situation. It's really bad. Because if it continues on with just the statistical law of averages, somebody's going to get hurt. It's going to happen. Somebody's going to pop off the wrong way. I'm seeing so many of these Ring door cams and security cameras. I'm keeping my exterior entries and exits completely illuminated at night. Normally, I don't necessarily do that in parts of my house. The cameras are working full force. The alarms are there. Because again, and so the other thing is, you didn't get a pizza delivery that you know of.
No,
That's
it's
that's
actually, I
another
hadn't
thing
even
that's
heard
happening.
about that. I
Yeah.
hadn't even heard about that, and I just had a text exchange with the aforementioned Gunther Eagleman because I asked him, "What can you tell me about this?" Because people keep asking me about pizzas, and at first I thought it was sarcasm,
Right.
and then I realized no, there's some kind of connection here which I didn't know about, but. Probably the reason I didn't is I'm remote enough that no one delivers pizzas to where I live.
No.
That's not happening. It's not going to happen. So maybe they would have done that, but they didn't. But there are several things about this that are interesting, Chad. And one of them, as you see in the video here, is at various times they have automatic rifles pointed at the interior of my home, because they're thinking, this could, there could be a guy in there's, armed and killing people.
Right.
But once this thing settled down, and as you pointed out, they're smiling. And I asked them if I could take their photograph, and they said they were cool with that. Well, they were at my place for quite a while. One of them came back and said, "Hey, don't be alarmed that if you see all those lights up the street, it's because we've got a flat tire." And so I decided to go up there, and I took a few more pictures. There were 9 vehicles up there, and they had the backs open.
Wow.
For heavy, artillery. So these guys had arrived. They put on body armor. They get their weapons, and 5 of them come down my driveway. And you can't see it in this photograph here, but this video, right beneath that light is a statue. And I told you this last night, which I thought was hilarious.
That statue has scared me before.
What's that?
That statue has scared me before.
Well, it's a full, body, it's like King David, hunting or something. And it's maybe 5 feet tall. It's not enormous, but it's pretty big. And one of them said, when I was coming down the driveway and I'm looking through your dog trot, which is this right here. And he said, I could see a figure silhouetted against the lake. And he said, and I put the scope, the laser side of my scope right on the head. And he said, I come down and I realize it's a statue. So my statue nearly got his head blown off last night.
So this is a beautiful home. I'm not going to describe your entire home, but I can't tell you how incredible Lori is as a homemaker to create the atmosphere. Larry, you married up, brother, as we like to say. She creates an incredible home. But the angle we're looking at here through this camera is out towards your parking area, garage, driveway.
Exactly.
That's your driveway that goes up through the woods to the main road.
Correct.
If you pass through this, the part that people don't see, the statue is there, but it passes all the way through, and you have a view of the lake. This entire run is your upper deck. Let's just say you can't hide money. You can't hide money, Larry. And so it looks out towards a terraced view that goes down to the lake. It's gorgeous out there. And so I can only imagine what was going through these guys' minds with all of this. And
they're coming up through this dog trot here, which, this gallery that runs through, you can see Ranger walking around in the background there. But it runs through not quite the center of my home, but almost. So on the left side here, are a couple of bedrooms and guest rooms where you've stayed, and then the main part of the house where you see the light coming on is where I am, and then a couple of decks. And these guys are wandering around, and I didn't know how many of them there were. I didn't know their intentions. None of that.
Yeah, I mean, I've prepared for this. I mean, then I'm going to go on Twitter today and say, I love Ukraine. I love Hamas.
I'm sitting here thinking, Larry seems like a really nice guy, but I don't want to go anywhere with him.
No. No. And I will tell you, Larry's a good shot. He's quite the capable marksman.
How was your adrenaline and your blood pumping? I know in your underwear you grabbed your gun, but there had to have been an element of you ready to put some bullets. As soon as he grabs that doorknob and you don't know that he's an officer, he didn't identify himself. That's scary. Yeah,
brother. I will tell you, trigger discipline, finger discipline, that matters. Yeah. And as Chad has pointed out, I grew up on military bases, and I'm very used to guns. My home is full of them. And I'm used to being. I've had a lot of guns pointed at me over the course of my career, and so fortunately that experience serves you well in a situation like this. Maybe if this is my first time, maybe I start shooting. But as it was, I never aimed the gun at them. I kept it at low ready. Yeah. But the key word there is ready. So I was quite ready to start. Firing off some rounds. I did not, but I was amped up, and it was interesting because I was going to bed, when this happened. And after this happened, even though it only lasts for minutes, the adrenaline shot, that hits you. I can't sleep for quite a while after that because I'm amped up.
Yeah.
And so that's when I was, texting with Chad, and I turned on, something like a Bond movie, or something that sat there for a little while I sort of decompressed.
There was going to be some blood spilt, by God.
John Wick.
Yeah, John Wick.
I'm thinking I'm going to order some outdoor cameras like today.
Yeah, everybody should have them. I mean, you should have them.
These are Arlo, by the way. These are Arlo, and they were installed by my son-in-law, who's quite tech savvy, and I can see on my phone. So you see, I can watch them on my phone from inside the house.
What's bad is so when I'm at home, Larry, my cameras that are inside that watch the doors, I turn them to the wall because they go off every time I walk in front of them, and sometimes I walk in front of them naked, and it is a major motivator for weight loss. Let me just tell you, brother, major motivator when I'm going out there to, I'm one with the world. I'm just.
So you're saying that your cameras have a micro feature.
They really know how to zoom in. And the light comes on, and then there's a strobe and an alarm, and I feel like I'm in the discotheque. I'm in the club slinging it. But, dude, first of all, I'm glad you're safe. I thank God you're safe. I pray for you all the time, but not for you being at home, dude. Like, I pray for you when you're in Prague or in Davos or in Cairo or in Bogota or the Darien Gap. I'm praying for you then. I typically am not praying for you in central Alabama.
Yeah, well, one of the nice things here, Chad, is that it is Central Alabama, and people here take very seriously being armed, and this is the kind of place, as you know, that if you had a flat tire, people would stop and help you.
Yes.
And that served me well here because the officer in charge, I don't know if I've already said this or if I just said this to you in a text, but when he said, I was having suspicions when we arrived and the gate is locked. He said, which I thought was odd. He said, secondly, he said, all the years I've been an officer, we've never had an incident
Right.
out where you live. He said, not one. He said, and then we arrive and the house is pitch black. I'm starting to think this is probably a bogus call. And he said, and when you come out, clearly having been in bed and you're armed, I think to myself, okay, I think we're good. I don't think this guy has shot anybody, and I don't think he's going to shoot me.
Yeah.
I think we just now have to explain to him why we're here so that he can trust that we mean him no harm. And that took a few minutes. I didn't immediately put the gun down or immediately assumed they weren't, operatives. And I know this sounds crazy, but Chad will know this is the nature of my life. I wasn't entirely sure, even when I saw them in uniforms, that they're not fake cops.
Yeah, and you literally have, you texted me from a bridge in Prague and said, I think the CIA is after me after your USAID, because you were talking about USAID. People can go back and watch the old episode from last year that you and I did together.
Yep.
You've been talking about the human trafficking with USAID for a long time. You uncovered USAID before it became a household word just in the last 2 months. So
yeah, and I think, Chad, related to that, what I was seeing USAID do in South America, and nobody again seemed to be listening to me until Doge came along, and I felt like that was my opportunity. I felt like here's my chance to explain to them that what they're seeing and what they were reporting. You'll recall this is, I don't know, a couple of months ago, 6 weeks ago, they were reporting, gosh, USAID has been funding Christianity Today and transgender naked twister in Kenya and, this kind of thing. And I was saying, guys, you are seeing the part of the iceberg above the water. Beneath the water, they are using a series of NGOs, 25 different NGOs, to fund the largest human trafficking operation in modern history. But then when I was in Cairo, what happened to me there with USAID, I realized something, that what I was seeing in South America was the tail of the snake.
Yeah.
When I was in Cairo, I was much nearer the head, and the result was they tried to off me there.
Yeah. Larry, I don't know if you could stick around or not. We're going to deal with a couple more topics. You may have to go. I know you've got a taping schedule.
I'll be glad to stick around with you, Chad.
All right, let's stick around for a minute. Before we do that, let me talk about our friends over at Allied Oilfield. Check them out, AlliedOilfield.com. They got some incredible equipment over there. They have been in the business for 20 years. They are a top player in manufacturing, producing, creating, designing oilfield equipment. So those of you out there in the trucking world or the oil and gas world, go over there and check them out, Allied Oilfield. From conception to finished project, these guys can help you. They need to be the top name. I tell everybody all the time, you want to watch Landman and you want to be all excited about it and you want to sound smart, go over there and study what they got over there at Allied Oilfield. But check those guys out. They've been over in Levelland, Texas doing this thing for a long time. They are an industry leader, but they need to be even bigger than they are. They need to be the preferred people that are getting the call whenever it's time to put new equipment in the oil field out there. And you know what? It's these jobs that are coming back right now under the Trump administration. The oil field's back, baby, and drill, baby, drill. We're going to be seeing some really cool stuff coming, and the economy is going to be booming. So, AlliedOilfield.com. Head over to their website, do a little perusing, look at some of the equipment they got, check them out, and recommend them to the folks out there that you know. And I know there's a lot of folks that listen to this show. You are truckers, you are oil field folks, and you know exactly who I'm talking about, so learn all about it.
Let's go drive some around, Chad.
That'd be fun.
Awesome.
That'd be fun. So Dan Bongino got sworn in today. He is now the deputy director of the FBI. So good on Dan. Dan finished. He had a very emotional show on Friday. Finished up, and they've created a network of people that are over on Rumble. They're all morning long. So, it's sort of not in competition, but the time slots, our Dear America is in the same time slot as one of their programs. But I'm happy to see this. say all that to say we need our audience to continue promoting, pushing, and commenting and sharing and doing all the rating and review and hitting the like button, all those good things for Dear America and this show as well. But Dan Bongino has been sworn in. I think this is going to be a good thing. I'm optimistic about it. Larry, from your perspective, the Department of Justice, Pam Bondi, I'm not a fan, but just from the perspective of the FBI, do you think they can clean house? Do you think it's capable of cleaning that institution up?
Well, let me first say a word regarding Pam Bondi, who I don't know and I don't have a strong opinion regarding, but you, Chad, you're a good friend of mine. People who watching, may detect that, but our friendship is more than just me being on your show or you on mine. And I thought that what others did to you and other influencers with the whole, Epstein
yeah,
thing, I thought was terrible. I don't think they meant to do you guys harm. They thought it was going to, be a great big positive splash, but they absolutely did. And I thought that was terrible. But I think what's happening right now, Chad, regarding not just the Department of Justice, but all across our government is I don't like hyperbole. People love to say Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback ever, or that was the worst storm ever, or this is the best book ever. I tend to not like that because forever is a long time.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's hyperbole to say that Trump may face the greatest challenge of any president since Lincoln, in that he is faced with deep, very real deep state corruption within his own government. And some may say, well, gosh, FDR had to deal with World War II and, Wilson had World War, or whatever. And my response to that is to say that, but they had a united American people. Now you're dealing with a government that is working to subvert the president of the United States. Now, the first time around, they were much more successful. This time, I don't think that they will be, but I think we have to give the president patience, even Pam Bondi patience. I think it's going to take them time to root this out. And having spoken with members very high up in our government, Chad, since the incident at USAID, and the president very kindly, commended my work in South America and exposing USAID corruption there. One of the things I've learned in all this, Chad, well, there's actually two. One of them is that the president, for all of his resources and the big budget, there's a lot he doesn't know. And it sometimes takes, an intrepid soul to wander into places in order to get him the information that he needs. That's one thing. The second thing is, when I have members high in our government who are calling me and saying, what the hell is going on at USAID Cairo? That tells me that we have rogue agencies that even the federal government doesn't really know what's going on and who's in charge. And frankly, I think this will be the first place I'll reveal it. I think USAID Cairo is being run by Hamas. Wow. And if not actually run by Hamas, then it is being run by Hamas sympathizers.
Wow. What leads you to believe that?
I think, Chad, think about their reaction to me when I was there. Remember that USAID, for those who don't know, the United States Agency for International Development, they're supposed to be UNICEF. They're supposed to be, basically the governmental equivalent of Samaritan's Purse. Mm-hmm. The response to my presence in that place was sheer panic. And there was an effort. I believe they had every intention to kill me. I think the only reason they didn't is because they couldn't get my phone out of my hand to know what video I had sent to other people or whom I had called. And so they let me go. And I think with the intention of getting me later, because it was very public. And then you also had my driver. And I think they're trying to decide, well, if we off him, are we going to off the driver too? this kind of thing. I mean, there was a pressure to get me to enter into the compound, and I wouldn't get out of that car. So then they want to charge me with, at first, as you know, they said that I was a terrorist, hence the reason I've changed my name for fun, Larry
Yeah.
Taunton. But then the second thing they did was they said I was a spy.
Mm.
And I thought, this is going to be very problematic for them, because to say that I'm a spy is a tacit admission that what's on the other side of those walls is more than pallets of grain or rice.
It's something worth spying on.
Something worth spying on. And why would they be so terrified of what I might discover? And by the way, that ties in with what happened in my home last night, because I have all this in the back of my head when I see 5 guys with automatic rifles on my porch.
Yeah. That's a frightening deal. Hey, because that was my first thing. I was like, it's one of the reasons I texted you in the middle of the night, because I was like, I can only imagine what's going through your mind, because I know what's been going through your mind. So it's a frightening deal. Let me say this let me do another ad real quick before we go any further, because we got a few minutes left in the show.
Is this an ED commercial?
No, not yet. Not yet. I wish we could get some more ED meds back on this deal. That would be a fun way to greet law enforcement at 2 a.m.
Naked.
But I digress. I mean, very few things turn me on these days, but you never know. Canada has threatened to take Pornhub away from America. I'm okay with that. I didn't know Pornhub was a Canadian thing. But I said, you can
Hockey
take that
and
away.
porn.
I get, it's very polite porn, apparently. But I'm sitting there thinking, I don't know what might turn me on at this stage of the game. Maybe a cop knocking on the door be the thing.
I think Canadian porn isn't that the stuff where naked women are running on logs, and wearing just
covered in syrup
and a flannel shirt,
covered in syrup. Oh, Lord have mercy. Birch Gold, folks. Birch Gold. Text Chad, CHAD, to 98989. Let Birch Gold be the experts in your life that take care of your legacy and your future, most specifically your retirement. Make sure that IRA is backed by precious metals in gold. Gold hit an all-time high, I think, today. Got well over $3,000 an ounce. So Birch Gold is the expert. They can guide you through it. They'll send you a free, no-obligation information kit when you text Chad to 989898. I encourage you to talk to them on the phone. They are sensible. It's not a high sales pitch. They just want to make sure that you're taken care of. A lot of people have those retirement plans that are sitting out there not doing anything, a 401k from a former employer. Let's roll that thing over into an IRA backed by gold. You can visit. You do a little research on your own at birchgold.com. But text Chad to 989898. Get that ball started. They will walk you through the process. And they'll help you out. Good folks. I love them over there. They're good people. A mother in Illinois. We won't play the clip. This thing's out there. This mother in Illinois. This is J.B. Pritzker's Illinois. She says that the school forced young girls to change in front of a trans student boy. This was a male student. Teachers reportedly monitored the girls, so none left the locker room in protest. So they quite literally made these young girls change clothes in a locker room, and they monitored them. If this doesn't have your blood pressure boiling, fellas, at this stage, this is, first of all, get your kids out of public school. Get them out, get them out, get them out, get them out. If you're in Illinois, California, you got any sense of, or New York, you got any sense of values whatsoever, get them out of the public schools, but I encourage you to do it everywhere. It's a cesspool. It's socialist. It's Marxist. The Dewey Mann system of education is gone. It's straight out of the pit of hell. Your kids don't deserve to be there. It's a brainwashing institution. Get them out. So
you would think they could charge, like, I don't know, the teachers with child abuse or something. Forcing them to stay and forcing them to change. Now that's a whole nother thing there.
Yeah, it's one thing to allow them into the space that should be sacred and reserved for females, but to force them to do this, this is a next level abuse. This is the lunacy, and you have on the left people who are not only defending this kind of stuff, but they would defend these Tren de Aragua gangsters who just got sent to El Salvador and fighting for their, quote, rights. These people on the left, they do not care about you. They do not care about your family. They do not care about your values. They do not care about your children. They do not care about you as a citizen. They don't care about your rights. They don't care about any of these things. You know what they care about? I don't know that they care about anything but their own personal, sinful self-interests, but they're disgusting, just absolutely disgusting. They've exchanged anything moral for the most vile, disgusting garbage that can be trotted out in front of people. This is something that I believe when history looks back on this era, they're going to say, what in the hell were these people thinking? This is absolute insanity. And I would beat somebody within an inch of their life, if not even further. This is a bad deal. And then when you bring in a guy, let's switch gears here. They hate common sense. Tom Homan was just talking about border strategy, border security. They now have brought in with this border invasion. Border invasions are down now. They're down 96% since Trump has taken office. Trump has just deployed a Navy destroyer ship to the border. That's interesting.
I like it.
I mean, I don't know how far up the Rio Grande he can send that thing, but I say send it, baby. I mean, they can get it up to Laredo, I'm pretty sure. So it's the world's largest, or it's America's largest inland port. And then Department of Homeland Security has announced that 7 new miles of border wall are being constructed in Arizona. So every little bit helps. Tom Homan is just absolutely owning them. On that Trinidad case, they asked Tom Homan out where the press talks to the people outside of the West Wing of the White House. This is a short little 14-second clip. Flip over to that, Mr. Producer. They asked him about this, quote, 200-year-old law that was being claimed to validate sending these gangsters to El Salvadorian prisons. And this is what Tom Homan had to say as a response. Play it.
You say to those who claim you're using a 200-year-old law to circumvent due process?
An old law? Not as old as the Constitution. We still pay attention to that, don't we?
Some would say this is
I love him.
And then he just walks off. I mean, we still pay attention to the Constitution. Wow. But these guys are more interested in things like egg prices and stuff. They're worried about Trinidad gangs when we're on the precipice, have been on the precipice for quite some time of World War III. To that point, Donald Trump is supposed to have a phone conversation tomorrow with Russian President Vladimir Putin to discuss the end of the war. Larry, you had a great take on all of this. I alluded to it last week on my show about the difference between empires and nations and how the understanding. You talked about the Bay of Pigs and the escalation in the 1960s with JFK and how close we got to world war because of nuclear war, because of they were literally on our doorstep. And this is the way Putin has felt about Ukraine entering NATO. And suddenly, Democrats, lefty liberals, progressive Riris, they care about nations' borders again. What do you think, Larry, in a nutshell, brings this scenario to a place of peace?
Well, my commentary on this is probably what got the, call and people on my deck last night with automatic rifles. But I think that Trump is a right to seek peace because, I see a lot of people talking very casually about going to war with Russia. And I'm alarmed by that, Chad, because, I have children, you have children. The efforts to invade Russia have not, as a rule, been very successful. And I think that Putin sees this as existential for Russia because Ukraine has always historically been attached to Russia. They have always seen it as absolutely vital to their national security, to their very existence. And so I think Trump's in a wonderful position to bring peace to this circumstance. But I do think that the Zelenskys of the world are going, and his globalist allies are going to try to torpedo any such efforts.
Yeah.
And we have to make Ukraine accept that there will be some concessions. Putin is not going to give back, I don't think, the Donbass or Crimea. I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, and I personally don't think. No, I don't think he is. I don't think he should be asked to give. I mean, Crimea, he's not giving that back.
That's the whole reason for the war is chiefly, their access to Crimea is incredibly important to them. But, here's the thing that a lot of people really just don't understand, Chad, as it relates to this. Our government, I'm ashamed to say, there are three corrupt players in this war. And maybe the most nefarious of all has been our own government. And the Obama administration toppled a democratically elected but pro-Russian Ukrainian government in 2014, and that is when Putin said enough is enough, and he invaded. Now we can argue the morality of the invasion, but the point of the matter is we have been using Ukraine very cynically to poke the Russian bear. I mean, what is it that Lindsey Graham said? We'll fight Russia to the last Ukrainian. I mean,
Thanks, flimsy Lindsey.
There will be no Ukraine left if we do not help Ukraine seek peace.
Yeah. Party foul, will you go to Ukraine? Will you fight for me?
No, but I'll send you a link for a website. You can sign up and you can go over there.
Well, it's a terrible country. I've been there many times. I've been in Russia many times. And let me tell you, they're both equally corrupt.
Yeah.
I'm neither pro-Putin nor pro-Zelensky, but I do recognize the fact that he's clever. He's not stupid.
He's not stupid, and he also sees it in many ways as a divine right. He sees himself in the lineage of Catherine the Great, Peter the Great. I mean, this is taking back lands that they believe is rightfully theirs. And I've been to Russia numerous times, Ukraine as well, work with orphans over there. You went so far as to adopt one and call her your daughter. So you know firsthand the corruption that's there, as well as
you're going to be swatted tonight, Chad. I'm just going to tell you.
I know. Well, I'm prepped. I'm ready. I've set up all the firewalls I can do. I'll sit up. I think I'm just going to put a lawn chair, just put a folding chair out on the front porch and sit there in my underwear and wait for him to show up.
I think you should sit there naked, take some ED meds, sit there naked. And put a bandolier, I'm
gonna hang a lantern. You know what I'm saying? just gonna put one of those rope lights right there. So then when I start seeing laser dots all over my body, I'll know these boys are after me.
Hey, by the way, Chad, I tell you this is funny. I was doing an interview from Rome shortly after the whole USAID thing happened, and you know how it is. You're doing an interview and from a hotel room or something, and you want to give the show a decent background.
Sure.
So being in Rome, I asked for the hotel if they had any kind of room that I could use, and so they gave me one that the windows open up and you're looking out into a beautiful piazza at night. But during the interview, there are these guys who sell these laser pointers down in this piazza. You can't see them, but you could see all around me these lasers, and people were texting and saying, I think somebody's trying to get a beat on you.
That's
I said, if it is, it's Stevie Wonder, because that thing was all over the place.
USAID is caught up with Larry Taunton. Oh, party foul. Hey, before we go, I got a couple of little fun things, but the price of eggs, folks, the price of eggs. Who knew that eggs were going to be the watershed issue? The price of eggs have now come down, I think, like 25%. There's some folks out there that are putting out. I mean, folks are finding them again for like $2.50, $2.70, something like that.
I made another bad investment. I bought 8 dozen of them, and prices dropped.
Yeah. But finally, this is ABC, came out and said wholesale egg prices have dropped 3 straight weeks in a row, falling $2.70. They've fallen $2.70 from just in the past week. So they're about $4.15. I can get them over at the Kroger in north of Houston for about $2.99. So, and my buddy Mitch Bryant, he brought me a couple of dozen. Still had the feathers on them. Still smell.
You actually do your own shopping?
Yes, I do. I do. I like to go to the Kroger about 7:00 in the morning and visit with the old people. When I first moved here, this is sort of my uppity eco bubble in this area where I live. And I'd go over there, and people were really kind of looking at me like, who is this guy that's interacting with us at this early in the morning? But that's sort of me prepping for geriatric days ahead.
Hey, Chad, who did you send to the store this morning to do your shopping?
I sent Party Foul Steve.
Okay.
I said, Steve, why don't you run to the store? And by the way, if you still have my debit card, I'm
Thank
going to
you.
need that
Thank
back.
you for the truthful answer.
That was sort of like that.
That's the truth.
That's sort of like that. What's the soccer player and his wife, the Beckhams, Victoria Beckham and David Beckham, when she's telling a story about growing up poor and common, and he's like, "You went to school in a Rolls Royce. Tell the truth. Tell the truth. Tell the truth." But it's St. Patrick's Day. I don't know if you guys are going to drink any green beer. I don't know if you've ever met this little leprechaun right here. It goes by the name of Tony Fauci. Look at this guy. Do you think the auto pen thing, do you think there's any beef to that, Larry, with the pardons?
You know, it's interesting. I should ask my my oldest son, Michael, the attorney, about that, because it seems to me that that's highly problematic. But I also think that it's problematic to issue a pardon for, say, future offenses or for something when you haven't yet been charged.
Right.
And I think that that's probably the angle they're going to take, is say, you can't give Tony Fauci a pardon for a fictitious charge. He has not yet been charged with anything. So I did hear him say that is, my son say that.
Yeah. I would say that if
I'd be first in line to get a pardon for something I'm going to do in the future.
Yeah,
That'd be
exactly.
pretty good.
I would love to have one of those blank checks.
And by the way, want to say this. Did you notice the one for Hunter Biden where the date began?
Yeah, 10 years ago.
2014.
Yeah.
The time that they started getting involved in Ukraine.
That's exactly right.
I
It goes
just-
all the
I
way
just
back to the
wanna
Burisma
know it-
stuff.
With the signature thing, I just want to know that Biden was at least the one that pushed the button that started the pen.
I don't think he had a clue.
It's like, if he was signing stuff that he never saw, that's something that's crazy.
I don't think I don't think, and I love Trump. Over the weekend, Trump put out a meme where he said 45 is a picture of himself, and 47 picture of himself, and 46 he had a picture of an auto pen.
Yeah, exactly.
Very telling.
It's very
telling.
clever.
If this leprechaun, though, Tony Fauci, was under a toadstool, I would step on it right there. Okay. There it is. There's the meme, the auto pen in the middle. I mean, it's one thing when you're signing EOs, but it's another when you're pardoning people, preemptively pardoning people. I think you should at least be mentally aware and present for something like that. That's a big deal.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see here in all of this, and I've commented on this more than once. Will Trump go after the head of the snake, or will he be contented to just go after the tail? Will he just go after the minions, or will he go after the Nancy Pelosi's and the Fauci's and the Bidens and the Clintons and so forth, the truly corrupt puppet masters?
Well, we know the corruption's out there, and no one can argue. The corruption's out there on the left and the right. Is that AOC? Oh my gosh. That's a horrible Lucky Charm right there. Wow, look at that thing. She's an angry big booty Latina. Look at that. She's a green polyester. That's frightening. AI is frightening. Let me just say. Keep her away from kids too. Trump shows off JD's socks last week. I don't know if you guys saw it.
I saw that. It was funny.
Yeah, Conor McGregor was at the White House today touting potentially his run to be president. But this was when they were with the president of Ireland, and JD had his shamrock socks on right there. You can see him in his green ties. So it's all in good fun, man. It's all in good fun. Anyway, Larry, thanks for joining us today, buddy.
Hey, great.
Live.
Great to be with you, Chad. Appreciate you. Appreciate your friendship. Need to get you out here on the lake when there are no SWAT teams here. And we'll sit on the porch with a calm Ranger and enjoy a couple of Cuban cigars.
Yeah,
I'm coming.
Yeah, Party Foul Steve. I shared Larry. I still had 2 Cubans in my humidor. And 3 weeks ago, Party Foul Steve enjoyed those. He and I enjoyed those out back here, sitting around the pool.
Good for you.
And I think it
amazing.
spoiled him. It's spoiled.
The nice thing about a Cuban cigar, and you're like me, I think, in that I maybe smoke 2 a month.
Yeah.
I'm not a smoker. Like I've never smoked cigarettes or anything like that. But
Or purchase Dewar's scotch.
did you like that?
I
Did
loved
you
it.
like that?
Loved it. You guys need to follow Larry and go read that story.
I went from store to store saying, "Do you have Dewars? Do you have Dewars?"
Looking for doers. He was picking up scotch for a friend.
A friend had texted me and said, I was in Florida. Would I pick up some? And he put it in the. I'm not a drinking man, so I had no idea what it was, and I just pronounced it phonetically. And I went from liquor store to liquor store saying, "Do you have Dewars? Do you have Dewars?" And they all said, "No, we've never heard of it." And I thought, what is this guy asking me to get? And finally, a woman said to me, "What is it?" And I said, "It's a scotch." And she goes, she started howling, and she said, "It's Dewars."
Doers.
It's Dewars. And I thought, oh, wow, I didn't know that. So, but
And
anyway,
nasty, too.
Cuban
Ugh.
cigars are great because it's one of the few things that I could give a guest like Chad that will impress him, that he will enjoy.
Yeah. Well, when it's $1,000 US, yes, it impresses me. It does impress me. And
I smoked it down to it was burning every bit of my fingers.
You can get these little metal, kind of toothpick kind of things where you can hold it like a wiener on a sausage and excuse me, a wiener on a toothpick and
I resemble that.
Guys, thanks for having me.
Man, Party Foul was down to the last inch of that cigar, and he threw it in the fire. He goes, "I feel like I just wasted $100." Follow Larry at Larry Taunton, Taunton at Larry Taunton. Get his books, Larry Alex Taunton. He's got some phenomenal writings out there. You'll find him all over the place, and oftentimes on everywhere from Al Jazeera to Fox to the Federalist, most recently, I think, and tons of places. But follow him. He's a good friend, and he's an incredible thinker. And I appreciate you, my brother. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just want to say this, Chad. And committed suicide. I just want you to know it's not true.
Yeah, you were muted out for the first part of that, but we know you're not suicidal, okay? And nor am I. I talk a good game about life sucking sometimes, but I promise you, I do enjoy it. I do enjoy it. All right, Larry. Thank you, my brother. Yes, thank you, bro. All right, Party Foul. Let's jump real quick into some super chats if we have any, and we'll wind the show down. Thank you guys for joining us. Yeah, thank you guys for joining us today. Thanks for hanging with us. I always enjoy my time with Larry Taunton. He's a good buddy, man. He's a smart dude. I mean, a smart dude. I don't know how he does what he does, but he's around the world all the time, and he'll stay gone for months at a time. He's in the thick of it, dude. All right, Kalendler, did I get that right? 75. I'm looking at buying a gun safe. Do you have any suggestions on which one to buy? I really don't. It depends on what size you want to get. Liberty Safe kind of ticked me off after they were willing to give the FBI the code to get into that guy's safe. The J6 or whatever, or whatever this case was. I can't even remember the details around it. But, they are good safes. There's some good ones that are out there. You can go find them.
Say Liberty's good. And I think if the FBI went to any safe manufacturer, in the end, they would get it up.
And I hate that.
There's a master code to everything, whether it's electronic or manual. There's a way.
I've got, Graham Allen and I were both with Liberty Safe years ago as a sponsor, and they sent us like that 10-foot giant room. And I was like, and I think mine's still in the back of the Blaze. But anyway. Lauren, 2135, get a European Doberman. They will guard you. We have 2-year-old Doberman that's 125 pounds. That's a big Dobie. Let me tell you, if anyone came near me or my husband or the kids, it would unalive them. I have no doubt. Those Dobermans are frightening. Whew, boy.
I got a border collie. He lets you know when anything's awry.
Yeah, I got a dachshund.
He will play ball with the stranger, but
I got a border doodle. Hey, Tiny, what's the guest name? Larry Taunton. Larry Alex Taunton is his pen name that he writes under. He got a great book called Around the World in Over 80 Days. Larry kind of made a name for himself years ago, debating on the theistic side, the Christian perspective, against the likes of renowned atheists like Christopher Hitchens and Richard Dawkins and those guys. He was very close friends with Hitchens, and they traveled around the world together. Striker J said, please, my friend, Grace, my Grace 26 on X, over 2 years battling breast cancer and the other illness stemming from it. Prayers for our fan Tipton, also battling cancer. Prayer for Cynthia's husband, surgery today. Definitely praying. Definitely praying. We will spend some time today praying for them. Thank you for making us aware of that. Anything else we got out there? That's it.
Oh, I wanted to say I'm happy to announce I'm up to $241 towards a camera and a laptop through my Venmo over the weekend.
Look at you.
For all those that want to know,
look at
it's
you.
like had some very generous donations made that they didn't want to be identified, but they just wanted to share a blessing, and so I do appreciate that.
I love it.
We're getting there.
We're gonna get you all set up. You can donate to Steve's laptop fund at Party Foul Steve.
I just want it. Tony was like, well, why do you want that? I said, man, I want to be able to, if Chad calls or texts at 9 o'clock at night because something happened, we can jump up and go live on Rumble. And
yeah, because for those of you who don't know, Steve is in the next room over. He's in my studio, but he's in the next room over in a little mobile studio. So he's not at his house. I can literally hear him through the wall half a second before I hear him in my ear. So, yeah.
It's a little strange. So she said, you mean you're going to wake me up in the middle of the night so you can? And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you never know. I'm watching these Trinidad guys. They are not messing around in El Salvador. Okay, we're going to jump off here. Don't forget to tune in for Hot Seat Todd. Check it out. He will get wild and woolly with you guys. Then, of course, we have Brianna Morello's program, and on the subject with our friend Megan Duthu, and Party Foul Steve. Who knows where Party Foul Steve's going to pop up, but he will be with me this weekend along with Jesse Payton in Springfield, Missouri at the Blue Room Comedy Club. We're going to be there Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, 5 shows in 3 nights. And I'll probably spend this afternoon over on Facebook stirring up more liberal rereads, lefty rereads. I put a new truck rant video on my Facebook and on my YouTube, and I will put it on Instagram here in a little while. But if you want to go to my Facebook, you can see a brand new truck rant where we're going to tell you, Party Foul Steve said, you know what you should start doing videos where you say, I'm just tired of it. I'm tired of it. So I started out today saying I'm tired of it. And you go find out what I'm tired about over on that video. All right, so for Party Foul Steve, I'm Chad Prather. Please go to where podcasts are offered. Give us a rating and review. We appreciate it so much. Let's drive it up the rankings over on Apple Podcasts by listening to it. Share this program. Make sure you subscribe, click like before you get out of here. Check out the rest of the folks on Dear America Media. As for me, I will see you tomorrow morning for Dear America. It'll be Tuesday, and we're going to have fun. I love you. God bless you. We'll talk to you then. Bye.